What's going on, Packers fans? Welcome into our live Pack-A-Day post-minicamp practice, live Q&A, chat, whatever you want to call it. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. We did just have day 2 of Packers minicamp. There should be plenty of time for questions today. I should be able to go till about 2:50 or so. And then right after that, I'll be live on Bleacher Report if you guys want to check me out over there. And we'll have opportunity for a lot of questions in that chat also. But as you know, before we get to questions, I'll just kind of go through some of the key takeaways from today's practice. First of all, I've talked about these past couple days how Thursday is almost always a team building activity when it comes to the Packers' last day of minicamp. Not so this week. There will, in fact, be a practice tomorrow. And with that, we'll be able to cover it again, and we'll try to have one of these chats again tomorrow. So there will be a full mini camp practice on Thursday as well. So that is noteworthy. From an attendance standpoint, pretty much the exact same as yesterday, save for there were 2 more players that were not practicing. Those 2 players that were not practicing were Rasheed Walker and Nate Hobbs were the 2 that were not practicing. So add those 2 to the injury list. I do not believe anyone actually returned from injury. And then the one thing that we did learn as well is that Quay Walker is dealing with an injury situation, and he is set to be good to go for training camp. So we haven't seen him, but it doesn't sound like there's anything to be alarmed about other than the fact that this is a injury situation and that he is just going to be out for a little bit. And again, should be ready to go when training camp kicks off here in 6-7 weeks, whatever it ends up being. As far as on the field, it was a mostly nondescript practice overall. We didn't have anyone changing positions today. There were no major announcements or releases or anything like that. The big takeaway was the 2-minute drill at the end of practice for the ones. It started off fairly nondescript in and of itself and didn't end up being anything that you would normally write home about. And then at the end, it legitimately ended with a bang. It was a phenomenal play. So the situation was, it's a 2-minute drill. There was literally 2 minutes left on the clock, down by 2, ball on your own 20-yard line, 1st and 10, 1 timeout, and you had to get down the field and get into field goal range. Malik Willis with the 2s already did a great job of getting his team down the field. Cornelius Johnson, by the way, my goodness, Cornelius Johnson had a freaking drive. He, on that first drive with the 2s, had a completion for 7 yards, a completion on 4th down to pick up a 1st down, a huge gain down the field, down the sidelines where he picked up a 1st down and got out of bounds. And then I think he got out of bounds. I'm not positive on that. And then another 1st down on a slant play later on. So 4 huge catches for Cornelius Johnson alone on that 2-minute drive with Malik Willis. And Malik Willis was slinging it as well. So that was the 2s. Then come the 1s. Love to Dobbs for 7 yards. Clock ticks. Love to Dobbs along the sideline. Nixon with great coverage, but it was a little bit too great. They called him for the penalty, automatic 1st down. Then Xavier McKinney comes off the edge on the next play. They called it a sack. This was one of those where in real time, I don't know that Xavier McKinney gets there. I'm not sure that Jordan gets the ball off. Like, you're probably talking about him getting kind of maybe hit as he throws. Maybe it ends up being a fumble and it ends up being worse. Maybe it ends up just being a sack. Maybe it ends up being an incompletion. Maybe Jordan gets it off in time. Those are tough things to say. But on this particular play, they called it a quote unquote sack by Xavier McKinney. Then on the next play, Jordan throws outside and Carrington Valentine made a great jump on the ball and then skied in the air to get a hand on it and break up the pass. So really nice play by Carrington Valentine. You had a 3rd and 20. There was a miscommunication between Jordan and the wide receiver. He throws it out into the flat. There's nobody there. And all of a sudden you're staring at 4th and 20. And what looked like we were just going to get the end of a rather disappointing 2-minute drive from the number 1 offense, but not so fast. We believe, I thought it was like in the 60-yardish range. It sounds like it was 74 yards. 74 yards, Jordan Love to Mecole Hardman, probably about 55 of it, maybe 60 in the air on a absolute dime. Could not have handed it to Mecole Hardman any better. Beats Gregory Jr. on the play, and Hardman races in untouched from there to the end zone for the game-winning touchdown. Unbelievable throw from Jordan. Great route by McCole Hardman to get that level of separation. Not sure in, what the defense in its entirety was doing. I do know that they brought a blitzer on the play. There was some question as to whether or not that play that Jordan would have been able to get it off or not. I think the defense was Xavier McKinney and LVN thought that they were going to be able to get, specifically LVN was going to be able to get to the quarterback and that maybe that play should have been blown dead. So some controversy on a couple different sacks or non-sacks on that play. The key thing here is Jordan was able to step into that throw, absolutely rip a 74-yard bomb to McCole Hardman on 4th and 20 to pick up not only the first down in that situation, but a 74-yard touchdown to win at the end. And we've been talking about it going back to OTAs and then specifically in mini camps already. Jordan has been fantastic. And let me get the quote from Matt here up in just a second. So he said, quote, "It's been as good as it could have been." And that was Matt LaFleur on Jordan Love's offseason so far. As good as it could have been. And obviously, Matt, it's not his job description to always be entirely truthful, but I wholeheartedly believe him in this one. And I from what I've seen from Jordan so far, this is clearly the best that we've seen Jordan. Now, it's OTAs, it's mini camps. It's do with that what you will. It's certainly better than the alternative. Certainly better than him throwing a bunch of picks and not being accurate with the football and missing long throws and looking timid and whatever. He looks fantastic. The ball is accurate. He's hitting to short, intermediate, and long layers of the field. He's going through his progressions. He looks like he's in complete control of the offense. And even when it's a impossible 4th and 20 situation, he's finding a way to get a deep ball to McCole Hardman for the win. So I've been very, very excited about what I've seen from Jordan so far. Again, we'll see if that carries over into camp and into the regular season and how he looks. It does not guarantee anything moving forward. But like I said, certainly better than the alternative. And Matt LaFleur, again, high praise, saying it's as good as it could have possibly been. That's exactly what you want to hear, right? And again, from what I've seen, and obviously Matt's seen a lot more of it than I have and has the opportunity to go and watch the tape every day of what's actually happening in practice and getting to see what happens behind the scenes. That's exactly what you want to hear from your franchise quarterback or from your coach about your franchise quarterback. And like everything that I've seen, I don't, there's maybe a couple passes. There was the play today where Carrington Valentine batted one away. There's a play last week where Edrin Cooper batted it away. Both made great reads on the ball. I don't think either were quote unquote interceptable or turnover worthy plays. So I don't think he's put one in harm's way yet. There's been a couple inaccurate passes here and there over the course of 3 weeks and 4 practices, but in its entirety, very accurate with the football. Again, knows exactly where to go, knows the offense in and out, knows the checks, knows the calls, knows the audibles, just everything. I talked about that play, I think, in the first week of OTAs where he recognizes a blitz by the defense, gets Luke Musgrave in, gets it into a better protection, then hits an out route to Matthew Golden. Just, again, some really, really great stuff that we've seen from Jordan, capped off today with, again, a 74-yard bomb on 4th and 20 to win the 2-minute period on the very last play of practice. So that was the attendance. Again, Cornelius Johnson deserves a lot of credit for what he did on that other 2-minute drive. Malik Willis has looked really sharp as well. He continues to carry over from what we saw a season ago. And just from Malik's standpoint, right? Remember that this past year, he got no time with Green Bay's offense. Like, it was all of a sudden they trade for him ahead of week 1. Week 1, he comes in for the final play or two. And then in week 2 and week 3, he's the starter with almost not knowing the playbook at all at that point. So he's getting a full indoctrination into Matt LaFleur's offense and system this offseason. And he looks even, I think, sharper than what we saw a season ago. And he seems to be taking a little bit of a step in a positive direction as well. So very early, but encouraging signs from both of the quarterbacks so far. McCole Hardman ending the last 2 days or both days of minicamp practice with a basically game tying and game winning touchdown, one on a mini Hail Mary from Sean Clifford on Tuesday. And then today catching one from Jordan Love deep down the field. And I just want to stress again, Jordan could not have put that ball on McCole Hardman any better. Just a very aesthetically pleasing and awesome play. You're thinking, as you're watching the play, it's 4th and 20. I'm watching Jordan take the snap and step up and just rear back and chuck one down the field. And you're thinking, as you look down to the other side, that it's 4th and 20. Clearly, there's going to be a lot of congestion and a lot of contested players down there. And it was just McCole Hardman in open space that beat Greg Jr. already and just puts it literally right in his hands. And McCole Hardman with that 4.240 speed takes it the rest of the way for the touchdown. Nobody was catching him at that point. So great way to end practice. Again, not anything else super noteworthy. I'll go over some of the more minutia and details and starting lineups and some of the other things as we get to our mini camp recap in its entirety tomorrow. But for now, we'll certainly open it up to questions and kind of go over anything that you guys want to go over. We'll start with John. Is it possible the thing with Jaws cap hit had to do with the change at president with no real competitive disadvantage? They were trying to clean the books as much as possible prior to the changeover. I really, really do not think so, John, but I guess any hypothesis is as good as anything else. I want to stress again, this really does not matter. The Packers have enough cap space, so it's not going to hurt them in any real way at all. So there's no downside really in doing this at this point, but I still have not been able to find a single upside that makes a ton of sense as of yet. So that one doesn't pass the sniff test to me, but again, nothing else really does either. So your guess is as good as mine. With the announcement of new front office personnel, what is the difference between scouting assistant, pro scout, area scout, national scout, and scouting coordinator? Richard, I'm going to be totally transparent here in that I don't know the exact answer to this. So this is my guess. I have not looked into the Packers specific job descriptions for each of these. My guess is that the national scouts are ones that are going to be going out nationally to all different campuses and doing probably a lot of scouting from home as well, of watching the tape and sort of organizing everything and letting the area scouts know which players to take a look at and what areas and things like that. The area scouts are the ones that are going to be specific to different regions of college football. And this used to be a very different job in a way, because you would have players that would stay in the same region for all 4 or 5 years, right? Now, one player might start off in, the upper Midwest or like in the, West Coast or whatever, and end up playing for Penn State and then go play for Florida. And different area scouts may touch this player through the course of a 3, 4, 5 year, 6-year college career. Whereas usually for the most part, players were more apt to stay in one spot or at least one region. And now that's just not the case anymore. But these area scouts are going to campuses, seeing the players in person, talking to coaches, assistant coaches, professors, girlfriends, whatever the case may be, to try to get the character profile and, of course, the scouting report in person as well. So that's the area scout. Pro scout is going to be scouting pro personnel. So not rookies and draft picks, but rather pro personnel. A lot of that is, again, going to be watching tape at home. You might go to a open training camp, which I believe at last I checked is allowed to go and scout a open training camp to the public. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on it, but I believe that is the case. I don't know 1,000,000% for sure, but I think that's the case. Or I think you're allowed to go and buy a preseason ticket to a game, so they might go in or whatever. So pro scout is going to be scouting pro personnel. Scouting assistant and scouting coordinator. Scouting coordinator is probably setting schedules and helping the scouts that are on the road know where to go, what players to be looking at, setting up meetings with certain players and coaches and whatnot. That'd be my guess is what the coordinator does. As far as what the assistant does, I'm not positive. So don't quote me on any of those, but that would be ultimately my guess for what those designations are. Jacob Monk has to be loving the opportunities at center with Elton's Holden. No real other center down the depth chart. Hopefully he can take advantage. It's a huge opportunity for him, if nothing else, right? Now, you have to make the most of that opportunity, but it definitely is one that you would be very excited about if you were in his position. Just learning the checks and the calls and getting familiar with Jordan and, again, just like sort of the snap cadence and how Jordan likes it snapped to him. All those sort of things are definitely important. Sean Ryan is going to get some reps at center as well from here, here and there, as sort of the emergency center as well. But no, Monk has primarily been with the ones at center. And I'd be interested if Jenkins was there, would Monk even be with the ones or would he be down with the twos? My guess is he'd probably be down with the twos. So what a massive opportunity with Jenkins out to not only get those reps with Jordan, but to work on the one offensive line group in general, get a few extra eyes on you. It's a huge opportunity for him and certainly a huge benefactor of Elton's Holden up until this point. How is Kitano Ladapo looking so far? As far as I can tell, good. He's rotated in with the ones a little bit. He certainly looks the part and continues to do so. There was some question, I think, beginning when he came in of is he going to have to be one of these safeties like Tariq Campbell or Raven Green that transitions more into a linebacker role? I don't think so. I think he's a safety, and I think he's a good safety. I really liked what I saw on him on tape a year ago when he actually got in the game. I think primarily the Bears game at the end of the year. He really looked like he's a legitimately good safety out there on the field when you need him. And I've seen that carry over so far. So nothing noteworthy, no picks, no pass breakups that I've seen. And again, a lot of times when you're doing some of the team drills or 7-on-7s, he's down with the 2s, although again, he has rotated in a little bit with the 1s. So I haven't been able to see a ton of him. But what I have seen, I've liked what I've seen so far. Shane, big year for Carrington Valentine. Hopefully, they obviously can use as much good news from that corner room as possible with their top 3. Of course, again, Nate Hobbs out today. With Hobbs out, it was Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon on the outside with Javon Bullard in the slot in your nickel formations. But no, Carrington Valentine has every right to be a legitimately really good corner in this league. He's got the talent. He's got the swagger. He's got the confidence. He's a hard worker. I do wholeheartedly believe that there is another step to Carrington Valentine's game. What that equates to, whether that he can become a legitimate, really good starter, or if he can get to like a Pro Bowl level, I don't know. Right now, I'll definitely take just good starter, but I do think that there's a very fun player there that has a great read on the ball and has great ball skills. And it would not shock me if he starts getting his hands on some interceptions coming up this season. He's a very talented football player, hoping for that breakout in year 3. Kraft and Musgrave on the field together. There's a lot of opportunity with that personnel package with the 2 tight end sets or 12 personnel, however you want to view it. I think we're going to see a lot more of it this year, assuming that Kraft and Musgrave can both stay healthy. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Kraft is a good run blocker. Musgrave is an effort blocker. He's not great at it, but he gives good effort at it. And if you come out in a nickel personnel package, you're going to feel pretty good running the football with that offensive line, Josh Jacobs and those 2 running backs on the field, plus good blocking wide receivers. You come out small against that group, and I like Josh Jacobs' chances quite a bit. If you come out heavy and you come out in a base personnel or something like that, you're basically in a 11 personnel, because you can split Luke Musgrave out wide as like a big slot wide receiver, 2 wide receivers on the outside, Tucker Kraft, a dynamic tight end in line, and then Josh Jacobs in the backfield who can catch the ball out of the backfield. You can do a lot with that group. So I really like the Musgrave Kraft, and then pick your 2 favorite wide receivers and Jacobs in the backfield. That's a personnel package that has a ton of potential, and hopefully they can unlock that group in 2025. The beat reporters are all conspiring with LaFleur to avoid talking about how awesome El Gersma has looked so far. There's some debate of whether it's El Gersma or El Gersma. So I'll have to kind of get to the bottom of that a little bit. Let me see if I can look it up right now. Because now I feel like I need to know this. If I'm going to be the captain of the El Gersma club, I probably need to know exactly how to pronounce it. It does not say. How does it not say in this thing? All right, I'm going to stick with El Gersma then. Usually the Packers are really good about putting the pronunciation in their little bio or whatever, but not so for Taylor El Gersma. So choose your own adventure, I guess. So I'm going to stick with El Gersma. I did take the time today, and I'm the only one that's nerdy enough in whatever you want to call me to do it. I did take time today to go down and watch the number 2s practice. Even I usually don't do that. I don't know of anyone that actually does, but I spent a couple minutes today. No, actually more than that. I spent probably about 5 minutes. Thankfully, I was in a spot where I could still kind of see what was happening with the 1s as well. But I did take time to go watch the 2s today. And just a couple minor notes. Anthony Belton was working at left tackle with the 2s. So he continues to work at tackle, both at left and at right. That's where they're starting him to begin his career. We'll see if that changes up in camp at all, or if they continue to, kind of see what works best for him. And then the other one was Jonathan Baldwin, the undrafted free agent corner, had been working at safety with the safety group with the 2s. So he seems to be more in that safety conversation than at corner, which again limits that corner group a little bit more. And again, maybe is why they moved Bo Melton. By the way, Bo Melton's still working with corner today on day 2 of minicamp. So Jonathan Baldwin, though, looks like he's going to be more safety than corner moving forward. Adam asks, what do I think of the Cameron Young signing? I'll be honest, Adam, I have not watched any Cameron Young yet. I'll have to go when I have a chance. Probably next week I'll have a little bit more time and take a look at the tape a little bit. Yeah, anytime there's a former 4th round pick who actually played legitimate snaps and has played 17 games and those sort of things, and he's just chilling out there, like that's the kind of guy that you want to take a look at on your 91 man roster, right? somebody that was almost a top 100 pick just a couple years ago and has had to battle through some injuries at a position where you could use a little bit more competition. To me, again, that sort of pickup makes a lot of sense for Green Bay. So I have not had the opportunity to watch the tape on him yet. I'll try to get to it at some point, but in theory, for what they're trying to do and just build competition and again, trying to find some diamonds in the rough, this is the type of pickup that I think makes a lot of sense. So I'm cool with it, but I've not had the opportunity to watch the tape yet. Shark Musgrave's been looking really good. He looks fast. He looks athletic. And here's what I'll also say as well. We all know the meme of Luke Musgrave, right? Yeah, the Musgrave stayed on his feet, and we've seen him stumble out of everything. He looks much more calm and balanced and just a little bit more zen in year 3 for Luke Musgrave. And I've talked about this in the past. Luke Musgrave is a very fast human being, especially so for his size. What I felt like over the first 2 years of Luke Musgrave is somebody that was fast, but he was rushing. He was trying to go too fast. He was trying to do everything in a blink of an eye. And that's actually not how you want to utilize those tools. You want to use your raw natural speed and abilities, but you don't want to do it in a way that's going to come out off balance or is going to be a little bit stumbly or whatever that thing might be that causes you to not be able to use that speed to its full advantage. So far, what I've seen from Luke Musgrave is far more unbalanced, far more under control, and the ability to naturally use those skills that he naturally has at his disposal. So that to me is a lot more exciting. I've liked what I've seen of him in the seam. He's catching the ball clean. He looks totally healthy. And I think if that continues, we're going to see a much improved Luke Musgrave this upcoming season and somebody that can help this offense in a much bigger way. I don't know if you've covered this yet, but have they announced if tomorrow will be a practice or not? Yes, it is set to be a practice tomorrow, not a team building activity. So that is that's awesome news for me and us as we get a little bit more practice time. And I will be out there again tomorrow, and I'll try to see if I can set up another one of these where we can cover everything that we want to cover. All right, Cheesehead Joey, how does Golden look? Haven't heard much from him. Yeah, I thought he had a little bit of a tougher couple days. There was one play yesterday where he had clearly not known his assignment on the play. I'll just put it that way. It was a tough look. He didn't know where to line up. And then he was supposed to go in motion. They had to tell him to go in motion, and he goes in a short motion, but then off the short motion, they're like, no, you got to go a full motion. So then he comes in full motion, gets to that side of the field, runs a short route. And then it looked like after the fact that they were kind of telling him that maybe that wasn't the right route to have run. That sounds egregious, obviously. I can tell you wholeheartedly, that's just rookie stuff that has happened to all of these rookies over the course. It's not anything out of the ordinary at all. He didn't have any of those at the first 2 OTA practices. He didn't have anything like that today. But that was one that, again, you get these, the rookie glaze every once in a while. That was a rookie glaze moment from Matthew Golden. And then just had a couple drops today. I think a couple of them were in the individual drills. And then there's a 50-50 speed drill. Like everyone's just coming, you sort of jog through. And then he goes up and like catches one along the sidelines and like brings it down. And the corner like batted it out of his hands, and it's a drop or pass breakup. I don't think Golden's expecting the defender in that situation because they're basically going walk through to make a play on the ball, so to speak. So I wouldn't really hold that one against him. But outside of that, again, I really still love overall what I've seen from Matthew Golden from a speed standpoint, the route running and all of those sort of things. He does very much have the ability to pluck the ball out of the air. I felt like today from a drop standpoint was more of a one-off. And that one play yesterday, again, I'm not reading too much into. But again, he's still super talented. No concerns by any means. It sounds worse than what it is, but nothing noteworthy either from any big plays from Matthew Golden over the course of the last couple of days. But still very, very excited. I thought he had a really nice. Again, he was kind of the big takeaway player from both of the OTA practices. So still in a good spot, but just again going through some of those rookie moments. All right, let's see. Then Wade asks, and thank you guys, Cheesehead Joey, for being a member for 12 months. Wade for being a member for 21 months. Have we seen Marshawn Lloyd at all? Yes, he is back practicing. Posted a video of him yesterday. He looks fat. His feet look incredibly fast. And he did get some teamwork in today. Again, it was just through walkthrough, so nothing really to take away from it. But no, he's out there practicing. the little that we've seen in individual drills, he looks good. And I think there's still a lot to be excited about with Marshawn Lloyd. All right, let's see. Where do we leave off here? Love has looked like a stud all through camp so far. So excited to see what a healthy Love can do with this deep offense. Omar, you and me both, my friend. I'm very excited to see what training camp and the regular season brings for Jordan Love. Pretty simple explanation. Mama always says, why put off until tomorrow? What can be done today? I'm assuming you mean about the Jair thing. Again, in this situation, that's actually in general not what you want to do. There's no benefit to paying it off now. So again, usually you actually want to leave yourself more flexibility. This is basically of just saying like, hey, would you rather, you're going to end up paying me $10 either way. And would you rather pay me $10 now or and $0 later, or $5 today and $5 later? Which one would you rather do? You're not going to spend any of that money anyway. And when you actually need to use it, you're still going to have the same $40 you have either way. It doesn't really matter. And again, if it were just an easy option where Green Bay could pick the option, I would say, sure, just pay it off. It's not a big deal. And we probably won't even talk about it. But making Jair like re-sign a new contract and like go out of your way to do it when there doesn't seem to be the benefit, that's the one that's still a bit of a head scratcher. But I'll say it one more time. I very much believe that Green Bay has a reason for doing it. And if found some sort of aha, like we could do this and something good will come out of it. What that good is, I still have yet to know though. A lot of Hardman with the ones. Could he potentially have a bigger role than we expected? I say this every year. Wide receiver is the one position that you really, really don't want to read into at all with who's playing with the, like, I will say this. There are the wide receivers that you would expect are the ones that are working with the ones, meaning Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, and then Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, McCole Hardman, Malik Heath, and Bo Melton. I guess I should say Savion Williams has not reached that status yet. So Savion's the only one that is not. I don't know how much the red jersey is hindering that, but he's been down with the twos when they've gone through walkthrough team drills and things like that. So Savion Williams is the only one that has not worked with that group. All of the others have worked with the ones. On top of that, like who's with the initial ones and things like that, they just throw a few guys out there and it doesn't seem to have any real rhyme or reason as to why. And what I will also say is, of those players, McCole Hardman's actually spent the most time working down with the twos and the threes and has even been in with the threes when they've been doing the 2-minute drill. So Hardman's been working with all three groups. I have not seen Heath or Melton work with the threes or the twos in the way that McCole Hardman has. So read into that what you will, but with wide receiver, I really would not read too much into where the rotations are at. But if you were to just look at it from where it's at right now, I would say actually the players that have spent the most time with the ones, Doubs, Reed, Wicks, Golden, and then Heath and Melton would actually be the next two, with Hardman again spending a decent amount of time down with the twos and the threes. But a really nice couple days for Hardman over the last 2 minicamp practices. Malik Willis has also looked sharp in camp so far, not just Love. Totally agreed, Omer. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur and Carrington Valentine. He's been extremely coachable, high character guy, busts his butt every day. He's approached it the right way. I'm excited for him. I did see that quote from Matt today in Carrington, and yeah, he is very clearly a player that they like quite a bit. Goody's talked about him. Matt's talked about him. Make no mistake, they have a lot of faith in their top three, in Hobbs and Valentine and in Nixon. Your mileage may vary on how much you trust those three. Green Bay trusts them a lot because they have A, said it, and B, they've backed it up by making it that those are your three and not really having anything behind them just in case. So they have a ton of faith and belief in those three corners. And they've, again, backed it up not only with their words, but with their actions as well. Jacob Monk, he's done a nice job. I can tell you he's a lot more comfortable and confident in terms of going out there and knowing what to do. For him, it's just going to come down to those live reps. And same thing with Jennings, like we talked about yesterday, right? Like offensive line play, defensive line play is basically just a version of patty cake right now. Not much you can lean into it. With Monk, there's a little bit more, though, because a lot of center is the mental reps as well. And I think that's why it's so huge for Jacob Monk to get in there and get some of those reps also. How are you feeling about last year's rookies going into year two? Again, still very early on, but let's just go through them one by one. So Jordan Morgan, I am still pretty bullish on, and I think he has all the qualities and traits to be a legitimately good starter in this league. He's had a lot of time at left tackle the past couple days. I've liked what I've seen from Jordan Morgan, but I'll say one more time, you can't really learn anything from OTAs or mini camps when it comes to offensive linemen. Edgerrin Cooper looks like a stud, fast, physical, put on the weight, but doesn't look any slower. He looks fantastic out there. Javon Bullard, still rotating some with safeties, but also playing in the slot and in the nickel. Haven't noticed anything from like a big play standpoint, but has put in the work at nickel from what I've seen. And again, no issues, nothing extraordinary or anything, but he looks good out there. Marshawn Lloyd looks to come back and bounce back from the injury. Physically, he looks fantastic. The quick feet, the speed all look to be there. But again, he has not gotten a ton of team reps so far. So tough to glean too much from Lloyd. Tyron Hopper has definitely caught my eye on a few different occasions. He looks quicker and quicker to diagnose, meaning he looks like he's putting the time in a little bit and learning the defense and understanding what his responsibilities are. He looks much quicker in that regard. Evan Williams continues to work with the starters at safety. Jacob Monk, we've been talking about at center. Oladapo looks good. Have not seen much for Travis Glover. Kalen King is currently in a cast, and Michael Pratt is currently a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. So that is your second-year player report from OTAs and minicamp so far. Jennings back with the ones again today. Packers liked him last camp before he got hurt. We'll see if he can be a depth piece. Certainly off to a good start, but again, offensive line and in the trenches is going to come a lot more down to training camp and preseason than anything that we can learn at this point in time. Shane obviously went through some of the key takeaways. Would just recommend going back and listening to it so I don't have to repeat it for everyone, but I'll also have the breakdown show tomorrow. And then again, we talked about some of the key takeaways at the onset of the episode. So if you want to check some of those, definitely go back and check it out. We kind of went over the big ones, but the big one was the bomb from Jordan Love to Mecole Hardman for about 74 yards to pick up a win in the 2-minute drill on a 4th and 20 play of all things. So that was kind of the big play of the day from Love to Hardman. We talked about Quay, just an injury thing. Per Packers PR, not related to, it does not seem to be related to contract issues. And per Packers PR, he is going to be back for the start of camp. So does not seem to be anything to be worried about at the moment. We'll see if that changes, but did get clarification on that today. Is there any defending our preseason offense? Malik Willis, Savion Williams, and Marshawn Lloyd in the backfield. Shane, I've talked about this. I gave a bold prediction, I want to say about a month ago following the draft, that we will go, I said we, you usually don't catch me on that. That's a rare one. That the Packers will go 3-0 in preseason and go undefeated. That's my bold take for the season. 3-0 Packers in preseason. Yep, we went over the Packers not on the field. Let's see. Jordan Love, 40+ touchdowns. I love it, Landshark. He should be at guard, but Jordan at tackle. Put Jordan at tackle. I don't understand putting Jordan at guard. Mark, I'm not sure. Are you saying that Monk should be at guard? I actually really like Jordan Morgan at guard. I think he can be a long-term guard. I actually really like what I've seen from him at tackle as well. So to me, I've said this, I still think you end up with Jordan Morgan doing some sort of rotation, potentially with Rasheed Walker at left tackle. I would love to see Anthony Belton get some reps inside at right guard. But Sean Ryan, by the way, we've talked about in the past of some of the issues or concerns about him being fit enough for the position or coming into camp out of shape. This is about as svelte as I've seen Sean Ryan. He looks to be in shape, ready to go, and ready for that contract year. He looks good, and he's going to do everything to hold off that right guard spot. So maybe Green Bay's determined that left tackle is the best opportunity for Morgan to earn those reps. They drafted him as a left tackle. He played his entire career at left tackle. I would not be willing to pigeonhole Jordan into just one position at this point. And I do think he has multiple, position versatility, and they're continuing to work him both at tackle and guard, which at this point I am all for him. Both the defensive line room and the cornerback room can use some depth. So the Cameron signing with 2 years of experience can't hurt. Again, pick up competition, never a bad thing whatsoever. Not sure if he can get his name in that conversation for a 53-man roster spot, but we'll probably battle it out for trying to make the practice squad. Yeah, Mecole Hardman, nice couple days for sure. Just only saw a little bit of Brinson, just doing some of the individual work. Nothing stood out in team. And again, offensive line, defensive line, tough to gather anything at this point. But just from a pure movement standpoint, doing some of the individual work, I did watch a few of his reps today. Looks good. But again, we'll learn a lot more for these guys in training camp. Will LVN upgrade and be what we need him to be? Isaiah, that's $1 million question, right? He looks good. He looks athletic, but I'll say it one more time. Edge rushers, there's not much you can actually take away from these mini camp practices. What you're looking at from a mini camp and OTA standpoint, quarterbacks, corners, wide receivers, tight ends, linebackers, anything in the trenches, you don't really care about one way or the other. It's just not real football. And a lot of the times, you might as well be doing 7-on-7 because the offensive linemen and defensive linemen aren't really engaging in real NFL style combat. So anything that you hear from a big time play from a defensive lineman or whatever, take it with a grain of salt. Or if you haven't heard Rashawn Gary's name or LVN, they're not even doing anything really. So again, nothing to take away from offensive line or defensive line at this point. We'll learn a lot more come training camp and then, of course, during the course of the season. Savion's doing a little bit in sort of like the walkthroughs and teams. He's down with the twos, but not in any like the 2-minute drills or anything like that when they're going full speed. Oliver is with the rehab group so far, so he has not done any practicing other than that rookie minicamp practice, which was not really a practice. He has not practiced in OTAs or minicamp yet. Again, same thing. No real takeaways from the defensive ends yet. Anything on the tight end 3 competition between Fitzpatrick and Sims or too much rotation to tell? Certainly seems to be between those two. I would say that Fitzpatrick looks to be a little bit ahead of Sims at this point in time, but should be a fun side bar roster battle for that number 3 spot between those two. Like I said, it certainly seems like Fitzpatrick's just a little bit ahead for the moment. Hartman sounds really great so far. Could he be this year's veteran surprise like Razul or Devondre? Maybe. We'll get a better look at it come training camp time, but he had 2 huge plays at the end of practice both these last 2 days and has been what you would expect, fast and reliable. And again, brings that veteran mentality to the team. He's the oldest wide receiver in the room. So he's got that going for him, I guess. But no, it's been a nice couple days for Mecole Hardman, and I've liked what I've seen so far. So we'll see if he can make it competing against Bo Melton and Malik Heath for what probably is just one spot on the team. Let's see. Who's got a birthday today? Did we miss somebody having a birthday? Did I miss it? It's not my birthday. I don't need to get any older than I already am, Dana. But yeah, not my birthday today. If I miss somebody in chat, whoever it is, happy birthday. I believe Hobbs' main position will depend on the development and usage of Bullard and Valentine. One of them needs to take a major step forward. I continue to stand by pretty vehemently, not to say that things can't change, but that it's going to be on base downs, Nixon and Hobbs on the outside. In big nickel, Nixon and Hobbs on the outside with Javon Bullard in the slot. And then in obvious passing downs or 11 personnel nickel or light nickel, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be Hobbs on the inside with Valentine and Nixon on the outside. That's my expectation. Until I see otherwise, I'm going to continue to go with that. But I think you're going to see Hobbs quite a bit on the outside. I think you're going to see him quite a bit on the inside on obvious passing downs. Bullard might keep his job in the slot, but he'll have to do a lot better than year 1 there. Again, I think Bullard's year 1 is still a little bit too aggressively attacked. I think he had some really great moments this past year. I think he's a much better player than people are giving him credit for. It's a really talented 2nd-round pick that clearly has a huge desire to perform at a very high level. And I'm still very bullish overall on Javon Bullard, no pun intended. I still think he's a better safety than he is a slot guy, but I do think in some big nickel, you can play him down there. I do think he has some fun versatility. I'm very excited about Javon Bullard in year 2. This way they can ditch Jair's address permanently. Not sure what that is in regards to, Dennis. Sorry if I missed something there. If Hobbs or Nixon get injured before the trade deadline, could you see a trade for Snead? Tennessee is not a contender, and Snead underperformed last year. Maybe a 3rd-round pick in Tennessee take on a 1/3 of the contract. I would be stunned, Pro Football Guy. Snead had a really rough year last year, and even that contract is going to be probably brutal for Tennessee to trade. Yeah, they're going to take on a massive amount of dead cap hit if they're doing that. Plus, I guess they could convert some of it, but he's got a $19 million base salary fully guaranteed. Even if they take a 1/3, you're still on the hook for about $13 million of that contract. I just really do not see Green Bay going in that direction. So again, never, something that couldn't surprise at some point, but I'd be pretty stunned if that was the direction. I don't recall my bosses giving me such glowing reviews as Coach gives. Got to start working for the Packers, Dennis, or start catching some balls. Let's see. It seems so passing over DeJean last year was Amos this year. Good drafted at least one cornerback in every draft. Only one remains on the roster, 7th rounder, Carrington Valentine. Let me say this about Cooper DeJean for a second. If they could go back in time and change their first round pick, they're absolutely taking Cooper, Edgerrin Cooper, not Cooper DeJean. They would go back in time and take Edgerrin Cooper in the first round. Teams did not value Cooper DeJean in the first round. And if you're going to go back to the second round, they're going to take Edgerrin Cooper with that pick as well. They made a phenomenal pick in the second round, deciding to trade back, still get Edgerrin Cooper, and at that point in time, picking up some extra picks as well. That's a unbelievable draft pick in the second round. And Cooper DeJean was never in play for the first round for any team at that point because he did not get taken until about the middle of the second round. So yes, in an ideal world, would it have been awesome if they could have somehow find a way to get Cooper DeJean and Edgerrin Cooper with their first two picks? Absolutely, with the benefit of hindsight. But Cooper DeJean, again, was not really in play in the first round. Jordan Morgan was going to get taken a pick or two later. He was, really kind of like the last real offensive lineman that was available. Green Bay decided to go in that direction. You usually are going to make good decisions when you take offensive linemen. That's usually a good thing to continue to draft and develop. I don't have really any major issues with that pick as of right now. He was somebody that to me had more of like a early to mid second round grade on him, but I don't think it was anything egregious taking him at that spot. And again, knowing that offensive linemen usually go a bit ahead of where they're graded at because of how valuable that they are, I totally understand the pick there. And yeah, we may end up talking about Cooper DeJean in the same vein as a TJ Watt or as one of these players that, Green Bay and some other teams just flat out missed on. But the fact that they got Edgerrin Cooper with that second round pick, and again, DeJean was not really in play in the first round, I'm not too upset by what transpired. Again, if you go back and do the Jordan Morgan pick over, you're probably just taking Edgerrin Cooper with that pick to make sure that you get him at that spot. So not too upset with the Packers getting Edgerrin Cooper in that situation. What's the theoretical value of Willis in a trade? Was he overdrafted as a third, and is his performance to date on par with what you'd expect from a third round quarterback? It's tough to say the exact value of Malik Willis right now. I mean, no team really needs him as a starter. So if any team's trading for him, it's as a backup. And if you're going to trade for a backup quarterback, I don't think any team's giving up a third round pick or better. And with that being the case, you just keep him on the roster. So we've talked about this quite a bit on a few different episodes. I think Malik Willis just has more value to Green Bay right now than he probably does anywhere else. He knows the offense. He was awesome as a backup last year, and Green Bay has no desire to get rid of their really good backup quarterback. And there's no team that's going to trade enough to get Green Bay to move off of him. So it probably just becomes a non-starter. My guess is probably, I don't know, 4th, 5th round pick, something like that. But Green Bay just says no in that situation. Let's get back to some of these the super chats. Thank you guys so much for these. Thank you, Autumn. Have you heard any rumblings of Green Bay trying to get cornerback or Rochelle back on a 1-year contract to help with depth in special teams? I have not, Autumn. I would assume if they wanted to do that, they would have done so already. He's been out there and available for, I want to say, like a few weeks now, and Green Bay has not done that. So sometimes you learn about a player enough to know what you need to know. Clearly, Green Bay has felt that up until this point that they know what Robert Rochelle is, and they feel like they can get more out of some of their guys that are on this roster that are younger and need the snaps more than going with Robert Rochelle. So I've not heard anything about that. At this point, would not expect a reunion with Robert Rochelle. Todd, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that a ton. And William, you as well. Currently making the 65-mile trek home after having back surgery yesterday. Your excellent reporting is helping distract me from the immense pain. Thank you. Well, William, I hate to hear that you had to have back surgery. Hopefully, whatever surgery that you had is going to help you a ton in the long run, and that it is as easy of a recovery as it can possibly be from back surgery. Backs are a literal pain in the back, I guess I'll say. I think everyone's got some sort of back issue, too much typing and leaning over a computer screen and tweeting and everything else. But man, that stuff is not fun. My dad had to have back surgery. I've been able to, I've had some bad back issues, and thankfully chiropractic work and some other stuff has fixed it up pretty well, but hopefully I can avoid that. But I know that stuff's not fun. So best of luck to you in your recovery. Thank you so much for checking out the show, and thank you for the super chat today. Appreciate that a ton. All right, where do we leave off here? Quayne Cooper finished well last season. They keep playing at that level with the D will be a lot tougher. Yeah, we'll see without their linebackers coach Anthony Campanelli where Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper can pick up from where they were at a season ago. Hopefully playing very, very well. Think Heath will be one of the odd men out. Do you believe Heath has any trade value, late pick, or back of the end roster player at a different position? I do not. And it's also possible that even if some teams, I guess if some teams offering something, you probably take it because you know then that they're probably going to at least claim him and you're going to lose him no matter what. But I could see Green Bay trying to want to sneak him back on the practice squad, even if they do release him. But I do think we're just getting into this battle between Malik Heath, Bo Melton, and McCole Hardman. And I do think it is going to be a very fun battle all throughout the offseason and training camp, if in fact there is only one spot available for those three players. I still put Heath and Hardman in a dead heat. Hardman for big play potential and Heath for blocking. And listen, don't rule out Bo Melton in that either, especially with the versatility he might now have. Bo Melton today played on offense with the ones, played on defense with the ones, played on the first unit on kick coverage, first unit on kick returns, first unit on punt coverage, first unit on punt returns. It's a very valuable player. So before anyone wants to write off Bo Melton and say like, yep, it's just going to be Malik Heath or McCole Hardman or whatever the case may be, just remember that sixth wide receiver spot, probably not getting a ton of time catching passes. You've got 5 other guys on the roster and Christian Watson coming back at some point. Those are going to be your pass catchers. Your number 6 wide receiver has an opportunity to be active on game day as the 5th wide receiver to provide depth at wide receiver if in case there's injuries, but more importantly, probably be a special teams guy, whether that's Bo Melton with all the value that he has, or whether it's McCole Hardman as a potential kick returner or punt returner, or if Heath can get involved in special teams as well. That's probably the deal breaker. That's probably the differentiator. Right now, Bo Melton has a lot going for him, plus with the ability to maybe play some defense as well. A lot of value for Bo Melton in that situation. Oh, no question. Just Giannis on Twitter is the best. I haven't seen what he's been posting, but Giannis can definitely get on some epic rants on Twitter and just some trolling and some fun stuff. So I haven't seen what he's been doing, but that does not surprise me. What are we looking at from a Brewers score here, fellas and ladies and gentlemen and everyone else? Ooh, should not have looked. 5-1 Braves in the top of the 7th. Hoskins with the homer. Everything else not looking great. Chad Patrick, a 9 ERA for the day. Nick Mears pitched well. Yeah, not a great start for the Brewers. Maybe they can get a comeback going. Any free agent corners that GM Andy would take a flyer on? There's not much out there. Listen, if Asante Samuel is cheap and he's recovered from the neck injury, I would have a conversation. I like Asante Samuel coming out. He doesn't really fit the defense. He's coming off a major neck injury. He's a terrible tackling corner. I would probably just say it's not a great idea. But if you can give him a call and see what the price is and the neck is recovered, I would at least have a conversation. But and then I would just put him in on passing downs only. Don't put him in on rundowns. But outside of that, there's really just not much out there. I would probably look more in the trade market than I would in the free agent market when it comes to corners, to be honest. Sounds like LVN's hands work again. Certainly better than they did last year. But again, we'll learn a lot more about LVN in camp and in preseason. Green Bay really wanted Jordan Morgan and Anthony Belton starting by 2026. A lot of money invested already in Jenkins and Banks. Expect Tom to get his bag soon. Need kids to make it cost effective. Even above and beyond that, Omar, you can just not have enough good offensive linemen. And at some point, I've talked about this in the past, especially with like Belton, but when it comes to offensive linemen, okay, more often than not, when you're picking it on the clock, there is going to be a player that is arguably a better player than what the offensive lineman is that you're going to take at that spot. Cooper DeJean, let's even talk about Cooper DeJean. You could probably make an argument to most people that, hey, you know, when you're on the clock, who's better, Cooper DeJean or Jordan Morgan? You could probably make an argument of Cooper DeJean, and I think it would be a very fair argument to be made at that spot, quite frankly and quite honestly, like even without the benefit of hindsight. What happens is every single time you're on the clock trying to take an offensive lineman, that probably is going to be the case. There's going to be a player at a different position, whether it be a tight end or a safety, a nickel corner, something like that, that is enticing to you. That might be a better player than what you're taking with that offensive lineman. What happens is, if you continue to do that, you end up with some really good players all throughout your roster and no offensive line. And that's a really tough thing to do at some point. And you can make the same argument a lot of times in free agency as well. But at some point, you need to, like, Aaron Banks is another great example of that. There probably were cooler players that you could have invested in for, what was it, 72 million or whatever. than Aaron Banks. But at some point, if you don't make those investments into the offensive line, you get really small really quick, and you don't have the bodies that you need along the offensive line to compete through a grueling 17 plus game season. And so at some point in time, you just have to bite the bullet and say, man, I would love to take Cooper DeJean, but if I don't start taking offensive linemen, we're going to be in trouble. We're not going to have the guys that we need. And Green Bay is in a unique situation in which they draft and develop offensive linemen better than any other team. They're able to find diamonds in the rough and guys that they take in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. So I get it. There's certainly an enticing level to that, but sometimes it only gets you so far. And at some point in time, you need to be able to go get some premium offensive linemen. And we're seeing right now the teams with premium offensive and defensive lines, they're cooking. They're really good. Philly's superpower was their 2 trenches, their offensive line and defensive line. And they just won a Super Bowl with it. So I have no issue with Green Bay ever investing in the trenches. Those positions are force multipliers for the rest of your team, and they will make everyone else better if you can pass protect and run block up front, and if you can stop the run and get after the quarterback up front on the other side. So I will never be upset with those type of investments. Just know, almost always with an Anthony Belton or a Jordan Morgan, there's going to be somebody sexier on the clock. And you just have to sometimes take your medicine. Just say, man, I would love to take a Cooper DeJean. I would love to take a Trey Dean, but I need to continue to invest into this offensive line. And I'm going to do it, even if it's a little bit painful. And even if I have to take my medicine while doing it, because if I don't, we're going to end up with a really crappy offensive line. And I don't want that to be the case. Also worth noting that, from a defensive back standpoint, what we talked about earlier with Trey Amos, right? He had a major injury. And there was some real injury concern with Amos as well. So that's probably why they went with Belton over Amos in the 2nd round. Just for giggles, what comp needed to get Trey Hendrickson? It's tough to know where the Bengals are at with this thing, if they even are considering a trade, but I think if he does come available, 2nd and a 5th, 2nd in a player, 2nd in a, something like that would be my guess. I don't think it will. I think you could get it without giving up a 1st. Maybe it's a 2nd and a 4th, but something in that range would get you Trey Hendrickson, would be my belief. Hobbs inside and Valentine with Nixon outside is my preference too. Agree on Bullard having upside. Yep, Cooper's having a great offseason so far. Is it likely that Sorrell makes a significant impact his first year out of the Packers? Kerry, I would, just a general rule of thumb, I would go into each season thinking that any of the rookies are not going to make a significant impact, and then be pleasantly surprised if they do. I think he's going to have opportunity for sure. I don't think it is going to take a ton to beat out guys like Brenton Cox and Kingsley Enagbare, obviously his other rookie running mate, and Colin Oliver. So I think there's real legit snaps to be had there for Baron Sorrell. Now it just comes down to how quickly can he acclimate to the NFL and what can he make out of those opportunities. But I think he's got a lot of talent. Now it's just how quickly can he put it together. Question about the salary cap. If you give a player a 4-year, $48 million contract with $12 million guaranteed, couldn't the team just pay the player $4 million a year for 3 years, then cut him? Okay. 4-year, $48 million with $12 million guaranteed. Couldn't the team just pay the player $4 million a year for 3 years, then cut him? No. Because the player's not signing that contract, Carson. So I had to think of like how you were doing the math here. So the $12 million guaranteed, it depends on how it's structured. So in a theoretical world, there's no theoretical world in which that math works, actually. You'd have to sign him to I'm even trying to think how you could maybe make this work. It would have to be basically like 4 years, $48 million, 12 guaranteed with a $3 million base all 4 years. And so a $3 million base all 4 years. And then with the $12 million being guaranteed, and then a 5th year team option at $36 million, which was non-guaranteed. That would be the way to get to a 4-year, $48 million. That's actually a 4-year, $16 million, or a 4-year, $12 million contract. So, and even your math there is wrong, because it would be $3 million a year on a 4-year deal, but I digress. So, no, that's not a real contract that would happen. How it works, without getting too into the weeds, is you sign a deal that is a 4-year, $48 million deal. And usually the base salaries escalate. You might only pay $2 million this year in a base salary. Then it goes to like 10 the next year. And then it continues to increase the throughout all of it. Then usually that guaranteed $12 million is set up in a signing bonus. So the signing bonus is going to prorate $3 million, $3 million, $3 million, $3 million over the course of the 4 years on the deal. And then so his cap hit this year is going to be 5 million. And then, you go year by year after that. So it's not set up the way that you're thinking it is here, Carson. It would take a lot more to get into the weeds of everything and do a salary cap 101 to go over it in a greater detail. But no, the answer to your question is no, you cannot do it that way. Fast forward, your crystal ball it's September 7th. What is our starting offensive line? Walker, Bank, assuming everyone's healthy. All right, we're just going to go with that. Walker, Banks, Jenkins, Ryan, and Tom, with Jordan Morgan rotating in with either Ryan or Walker. And I'm going to guess that it's Walker at left tackle. So rotation at left tackle with Walker technically starting, Banks at left guard, Jenkins at center, Sean Ryan at right guard, and then Zach Tom at right tackle would be my guess. All right, I do have to get out here in just a couple minutes. We'll try to get to these just lightning round here really quick. If left with 2 spots, which of the 4 players win? Junior, Haddon, King, or Robinson? Haddon and Robinson in that situation, Adam. I'd like to see Zane in the big nickel. I know Bullard was a 2nd-round pick, but to me, Anderson has more potential, size, speed. Could not disagree with that more. Pro Football Guy. Bullard is a legit big-time talent. Zane Anderson, by the way, is 28 years old, turns 29 in... Oh, no, he doesn't turn 29 until January, but he's 28 years old. He is who he is at this point. There's no upside with Zane Anderson. I like him as a player, but there's a better chance that Zane Anderson gets cut than he does in that starting nickel role. So I love Zane Anderson. I think he makes the team, but I can't get there with you from a potential standpoint against Javon Bullard. Acupuncture for back pain. I did acupuncture once. It was a really weird experience. Probably will never do it again, but I did try it. 100% on board with Ball on the team. Would maybe drop Hardman when Watson comes back. That could be a possibility. What you have to remember with Hardman is if he's on the roster week 1, that his full contract guarantees. So you just have to remember that as well. But Melton is very fast, a very good teams player, and one of the surest hands with only 1 drop this past season. How nice is it not worrying about how many kicks are being made each practice? Extremely nice. We will not go Braves. Thank you for the kind words and keep up the great work, Andy. Appreciate you, William. Not much left in free agency unless the Packers want to overpay a veteran on the decline. Even last year, LVN was pretty effective. Didn't he have a good number of pressures? Not really. I still think he needs to improve in a pretty significant way, but better than I think most people think of him, just because he's not living up to expectations, but still a solid rotational player. Absolutely. Eagles won with their lines. Trenches, always most important, guys most often for sure. And that in quarterback, of course. Bengals are definitely a poop show. After watching 2 practices, who do you see on the bubble of making the team? Probably a little bit too early for that, Daryl, and I don't have probably the time in 2 minutes to go over it, but we'll try to get to that maybe at some point. I'll probably do a post-minicamp 53-man roster projection. 2026 O-line, Tom, Banks, Jenkins, Morgan, and Belton. I think that's true, but not in that order. Packers just posted the 74 touchdowns on their social. All right, that's cool. Bengals are trying to add in a clause to their rookies. Yeah, they're just being idiots, quite frankly. Never consider contract stuff, Andy. Andy's the man. Appreciate you, Adam. All right, I do have to get out of here. I will be going over to Bleacher Report right now. So if you want to do 30 more minutes of Packers talk, check me out over at Bleacher Report. I'm going there as we speak. I'll see you guys over there, hopefully. If not, I'll see you all very soon. Packers minicamp again tomorrow. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.